What's going on, Lakers fans, and welcome into episode 29 of the LakeShow Flow. I am your host, Gio, as we have another trade in Lakerland. The Rob Father has struck again, and I swear to God, this has been the most eventful trade deadline as a Laker fan, and the best trade deadline as a Laker fan that I've ever been a part of, to be honest. But before we get into the trade that occurred tonight, I just want to say, if you're new here, or even if you've been here, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel, because every ounce of support just keeps me motivated to keep doing this, and it just helps the channel grow. So if you're a Laker fan and you're waking up right now, the Lakers made another trade. The Lakers are sending out Dalton Connect, which I know is going to hurt a lot of you, and it hurts me, but trust me, it was worth it. Now, they send out Dalton Connect, Cam Reddish, and a 2031 unprotected first-round pick, and also a 2030 pick swap to the Charlotte Hornets, and they have acquired center Mark Williams. So, I understand that when you hear the name Mark Williams, a lot of people that only watch the Lakers, they don't know who he is. His name, honestly, kind of sounds like a 2K generated rookie name. Like it just sounds like the most plain, boring name that you could think of. I understand. But what people don't understand is the fact that this kid is only 23 years old. He's actually 8 months younger than Dalton Connect, okay? He also has the longest standing reach in recorded NBA Combine history. So that's a longer standing reach than Victor Wembanyama. He's 7 foot tall, but 7'2" with shoes on, which I don't know if you guys know this, but they wear shoes when they play basketball. So he's going to be running around and jumping around at 7'2" with that 9'9" standing reach. Okay, so that's just the physicals, all right? But the thing is, a lot of people kind of panic because obviously we had this love and we welcomed that kid Dalton Connect into the city of Los Angeles with open arms. We saw him have a 30-point game, 30-plus point game. He was looking like a sniper for a fraction of the season, for a couple of the games in the beginning of the year, right? And I understand the immediate reaction, but the thing is, this team, after acquiring Luka Doncic, the biggest hole was needing to be filled, filling Anthony Davis's spot on the floor. And there are very few players around the league who can just be a one-for-one replacement for a guy like Anthony Davis. He's a first ballot Hall of Famer for a reason. He's an NBA champion for a reason. We're always going to miss that piece of our team with AD being gone, right? But Mark Williams could at least fill in for some of the stuff that AD did. And also, he brings his own credentials to the table in terms of his physical credentials and his untapped potential, honestly. He served a couple seasons in Charlotte. There's a lot of injury concerns. There's some defensive concerns. We're going to touch on all that. But I just wanted to say, I understand the immediate shock of trading away Dalton Connect and that connection that people felt. But the solution to everything is bringing in another guy that's on the same timeline that Dalton Connect was filling, which was on the Luka timeline, right? But the thing with Dalton Connect is he's not ready right now. And who knows if he would have been ready by the playoffs? Who knows if he wins us playoff games with his shooting? Sometimes he shoots himself out of games. Sometimes he misses his assignments in terms of plays that tongue twister, that JJ was drawing up for him in particular. Those were issues. I mean, JJ lost his cool one time, yelling at him like, "It's your fucking play, dude. Like, what are you doing?" So just think about the big games that Dalton Connect might have not been able to make an impact in, because when he's not scoring, his defense is a liability. Now, we can get into Mark Williams in terms of his immediate impact. I mean, he's a starter on most teams in the league as a center, unless they have one of the big names that we know and one of the elite names that we know. Mark Williams could just instantly plug into your starting position and make an impact. And when he's not scoring, he might not be the greatest defender, but he's a hustler. He can grab rebounds. He can fly around the court. He's got the physical presence that only makes him better, basically. Like, there's a lot of players that maybe they're not the best defenders, but they're also not a guy that's 7'2" with a 9'9" standing reach with some athleticism to him. So that's something to keep in mind if you're doubting the impact and doubting the long term, potential here. I feel like Dalton Connect, his ceiling to me, and this isn't just because he's white, but I was gonna say Clay at one point, but honestly, I don't see Connect ever being the type of defender that Clay was in his prime. That would be a disrespect to Clay to ever say that. So I think his real potential would be like a Dante DiVincenzo, and that's not even a knock. Like I'm thinking Dante DiVincenzo, when he was making the run with the Knicks last year, he would have these games where he'd just go off and like take over a whole quarter, and it would just change the pace of the game. And he also was a hustler on defense. He was also, able to hold his own and stay in front of guys. So that was, I think, Dalton's ceiling, maybe a better shooter, probably the most pure form I've seen in a long time on the Lakers. And yeah, so maybe a better shooter, less of a defender, but Dante DiVincenzo was probably his full potential. And other than that, he'd probably be like a Buddy Hield. Buddy Hield, pretty much nobody ever has considered Buddy Hield a defender, and I think Dalton could have just been that guy that was just a sniper that couldn't defend. So those were the two things. Those were the ceilings. And that would be great if it was ready right now, like if we knew that right now. When it comes to Mark Williams, we know what he can do now, and we also know that he has a bunch of potential that hasn't even been fulfilled yet. Another thing people got to keep in mind is Luka Doncic expressed, and the report came out that Luka expressed what he wanted in a center. He wanted another lob threat. He wanted a guy that can, help his spots better, where he can feed him if he gets open, cutting to the basket, a physical presence. And that's why the Lakers jumped on that and got this trade done. It's exactly what we needed, because we needed a center. But every other name that we heard in the news were these bigger, older, slow-footed, flat-footed big men that couldn't really move around as much. Like I heard Steven Adams. We heard the Jakob Poeltl, who's actually a pretty good defender. And then Jonas Valanciunas, who can't even play defense. Even Vucevic, that was in the news. Like, he's not going to be able to do what Luka needs him to do. So the Lakers showed with this move, they answered the question that I had in the last video is, this trade deadline is going to show a lot. I said, they're going to show us if they're on this timeline to actually buy into this team this year, or if they're just going to wait and, be on the Luka timeline and say, you know what? We don't have to go all in this year. We'll see what happens. Nah, they went, I'm telling you, they got as all in as you can be. They got rid of Dalton, who they really loved. They got rid of the 2031 pick. They got rid of Cam Reddish, who, he only helps now. He's only a deteriorating asset. He's not a guy that's going to get better. He's a guy that's probably just going to start going on a downfall soon. So there were even people that questioned if Cam was like an NBA player, like if he was going to be a solid role player for any team besides the Lakers, because we needed him. So there's that. But yeah, the Lakers went all in. They showed Luka that we're all in on you. And it's an eye-opener, because there was a lot of comments that Rob Pelinka made when we had AD and LeBron. And it seemed like he just was so hesitant to pull the trigger and fully invest in the AD LeBron timeline. And it didn't seem like he had their best interest in his mind. I feel like because you see it, the second that he was able to flip AD for another star, and obviously you're going to do this trade, 10 out of 10 times, but I'm just saying the sooner he can get AD out of here, the better for him. And I'm not saying I agree with that, but I'm saying in Rob's mind, he never believed in AD. And I think it's because of the injury history. I think it's because of the inconsistency sometimes. And I can't say I disagree in terms of why he kind of gave up on AD in a way, but it's just crazy how everything just suddenly opens up as soon as we get Luka. Like, all of a sudden teams want to trade with the Lakers. All of a sudden we can get a center that AD wanted this whole time, a center nobody saw on the radar. Like, it's an unprecedented move, and it also comes at a time where you're just like, wow, this is like crazy that all of a sudden they make a move because we have Luka and they believe in him more than they believed in AD. And I don't know. I think that's just an interesting tidbit of information. I think when it comes to Mark Williams, like I said, nobody had him on their radar because this guy's been tearing it up in Charlotte. And I get it, starting for Charlotte is different than starting for the Lakers, but all it means is he's going to have to be expected to do less with the Lakers. Like, I can go through some games that he's had in recent, literally last month, his last few games. He's had a 2012 game. He's had a 38-9 game. He's had a 24-16 game, 19-19 game, and a 31-13 game. Like, This guy is not just a guy. He's a guy that could come in and make an impact right away because he's not even going to need or be expected to make those type of numbers. He's just going to do what we need him to do. And his defense, that is a concern. I just think there's certain things you can't teach, and I've mentioned this ad nauseum at this point, but his physical stature and his standing reach and his wingspan itself and his athleticism, I feel like that's stuff you can work on. That's stuff you can only continue to build on. He played, okay, here's the thing. He went to Duke, and that is a very high profile college, a world renowned college, a world renowned basketball program. Like that's not your typical college, you know? And he went out there and he actually was like 7th in blocks all time. I did a little research here. So I feel like you go to that school and you have high expectations. It's just a well-run basketball team, right? And then you go to Charlotte, who's never really ever produced a high-profile center that I could think of at the top of my head. I think this has probably been like their best big man in a long time. And I just think the motivation playing in Charlotte is just so much different. I know there's a lot of people, and there was even I think one of the broadcasters for Charlotte, there was a clip going around that was saying, oh, is this who the Lakers are excited about? And he was basically just running Mark Williams into the ground. And I think Mark Williams actually ended up having a good game, but it was like halftime and they were down by a lot. And I understand the grievances he was expressing, but at the same time, he's playing for the Charlotte Hornets, who have Brandon Miller out for the season right now. They have LaMelo Ball, who's been in and out of the lineup. He's actually been injured too. And I just feel like the motivation there is just so different. I think the hustling and everything. I mean, some players, they can play through that. Like, I know AD, but that AD is a different level, right, for a reason. But when he was in New Orleans, he was hardly on winning teams, but he played his heart out. He was just showing his otherworldly talent. But that's why it comes into play where I'm saying we're never going to replace exactly one for one what AD did for the Lakers. So I just think if Mark Williams is the kind of player, he's young, he probably wants to be in a winning environment coming out of Duke, and he knows he's not playing for anything in Charlotte, and he doesn't have these superstars around him like freaking LeBron James and Luka Doncic and Austin Reeves, all this talent around him to really push his game a step further. I'm just saying I have high expectations, high hopes for this guy, and he can make an impact now just from physicality alone, just from what he's good at already, and then he has untapped potential. And I think if you put him in the workshops with people like just anyone, he can go work with Hakeem, he can go work with these bigs that were from the past that can really shape his game. And just, like I said, the winning environment's going to change a lot. So I think it's a big move that people are underrating. It's fallen under the radar for a lot of Laker fans. A lot of people say it's a lot to give up, but here's some perspective on that. Connect and that pick could have easily went to Dallas in the Luka trade. So to me, we didn't just get Luka for all the assets we had at hand. Just picture us getting Luka, Maxi Kleber, Markieff Morris, and Mark Williams. That's how I look at it, is because we were about to give up all the stuff we've given up in the last few days for just Luka. And people would have been okay with it. If we would have gave up Connect as well and the pick, people wouldn't have batted an eye. They would have been like, well, damn, that's probably the price that you pay for Luka, which have been 2 unprotected picks, AD and Dalton Connect, right? So to me, I think you just have to look at it from that perspective of these are assets that we were able to still have because we fleeced Nico Harrison and the Mavericks. And the psychology of that trade is just insane, but we can, that's a topic for another day. Rob Pelinka really put on his Godfather suit and just really went to work. So all I'm saying is I get it. We're going to be sad for a little bit because Connect is gone, but the gravity of this trade is going to hit Laker fans like a ton of bricks as soon as they see Mark Williams just hustling and doing things that are not exactly what AD could do, but still his own way, his own swag. I think we're going to really see how productive this duo of him and Luka and how deadly it can be in pick and roll situations, as well as with LeBron and Austin Reeves. There's so much to be excited about. There's also the question of do the Lakers do anything else tomorrow at the trade deadline? Well, actually today when I put the video out, will the Lakers do anything at the trade deadline, which is at 12 p.m. noon or 3 p.m. Eastern time? Will they go and get that guard that they need. I feel like they still need a 3-and-D guard that can help out against some of the elite guards in the West in the playoffs. Um, they did free up a roster spot with this move. They gave away 2 players, they received 1. So there's a possibility that they not only make a trade on the buyout, or I'm sorry, make a trade at the trade deadline, or they can also get a buyout and get someone that maybe is involved in a trade that isn't going to stick around there. A name that got floated around, but I don't think it's possible, was Dennis Schroeder, like bringing him back in. And trust me, Dennis, when you think about it as a Laker fan, it's like, oh, well, I don't really remember him being this high impact player, but he was good in the starting lineup, but I think he could be great off the bench. So I don't think the Lakers could fit his, having to sign him under the contract or under the salary cap. But a guy like Torrey Craig comes to mind, and he's a good veteran presence. He's a good 3-and-D guy. And I don't know, at this point, I don't think the Lakers need to swing for the fence. They already hit a damn Freddie Freeman World Series Grand Slam. You know what I mean? Like, that was the move they did when it came to Luka. And I like that Jovan Buha used another baseball reference saying that it was probably either a home run or at least a triple when they got Mark Williams. And I think people will realize the gravity of this trade as time progresses. Right now, it's going to hit people a little hard to see that Connect was in there. I mean, man, Connect, there was just so much potential there. I get it. Connect 4, there was some swag to that, like just having that on as a jersey. I was even thinking about getting one, but I'm kind of glad I didn't because now he's not here. But this is a move that just shows that they're willing to invest in Luka. And if you guys want Luka to stay here, then you'll be happy about it, because you have to understand he needs incentive to stay here. It's going to be, he went from an organization that took a long time to give him help and then ended up trading him anyways and blindsiding him. You build trust, you build rapport when you do these kind of moves, especially if it's a guy that he supposedly mentioned exactly Mark Williams himself, or at least a similar comparison to what Mark Williams brings. So with that in mind, that is why this trade is just monumental for the Lakers' current success as well as the future. LeBron fans can chill now because this is a move, an all-in move. Like, you don't just give up the guy you drafted and a steal of the draft, which was Dalton Connect, and then also the next first-round pick, the last first-round pick that we had that was tradable. So anything else that's first round would have to be pick swaps at this point. So it's a big move, and it signals a lot, and it shows a lot for the commitment to LeBron and Luka going forward. So I'm excited about this one. I hope people that are so negative understand. I hope I made things a little more clear for you guys. That's all I'm here to do, is try to explain things the best that I can, because I know a lot of these trades are a little hard to process, and I was hit by the AD one. He was my favorite Laker player, and obviously Dalton Connect was starting to win our hearts over. We had high hopes, but trust me, guys, Mark Williams at 23 years old, 8 months younger than Connect, he's got so much potential, and I think he's going to be on this team as long as he stays healthy. I think he's going to be on this team for years to come. And I think a lot of those health concerns, too, that, he's had some injury history. I mean, think about it. I just got into playing in Charlotte is different than playing for a winner. So I think all those little knick-knack, injuries that you get, you might just take a day off. The team might tell you to take a day off because they're trying to tank low-key. So I'm just saying, I don't see him spending as much time, sidelined. But think about it. We had AD, who I loved AD. He was sidelined a lot, too. So my thing is, AD was a superstar that was sidelined a lot. Mark Williams isn't expected to be a superstar, so losing him out of the lineup is a little easier to make up for when Luka and LeBron won't be out of the lineup. So there's a lot of perspectives, there's a lot of ways you can kind of dice it up, but I hope that puts a bow on it for everybody listening. If there's any other moves at the trade deadline, I'm definitely making another video. This has been really fun to come back. The Luka trade brought me out of an early retirement when it comes to this podcast stuff. So I'm back and I'm better, and I hope that I continue to bring you guys the content. I know I'm not as quick as those live channels that just go live instantly. They got their best setups, but trust and believe, it's only up from here. So like I said in the beginning, if you're new here or you've been here, please leave a like, comment, share the video, and subscribe to the channel. I'm going to continue to bring these as soon as I can, and I appreciate you guys for all the support. Thank you guys. We'll see you guys next time.